Good morning, you guys. I'm a new channel here on YouTube. My name is Couch Mouse. I was just a lurker for a really long time, and then I stopped into Rosie's live one day because everybody was saying how insufferable it is, and to be honest, y'all, it is completely insufferable. So I sat through her August 25th live, 4 hour long live, so y'all didn't have to. I don't have a video for this. Not gonna worry about the copyright stuff right now because this is my first video. I'm just going to give you a breakdown. It's quite long, so this will probably be my first of many videos, so bear with me as I figure out how to do this. I'm old and not very tech savvy. So she had a subscribers only 4 hour long live last night. I kind of missed the beginning, and there wasn't very interesting. There wasn't a lot of interesting things in the beginning, so I didn't really gloss over that too much. But she thinks that asking questions and asking about nicknames and stuff in the chat is drama, you guys. It is drama. So I popped into the chat and I asked a question. I think my first question was, do you want channels? I didn't even say reacting. I just said, do you want channels to be commenting on your content or something very simple like that? And she was like, no, I'm not even going to comment on that. And I was like, okay, well, we'll change the question. So I asked her, like, what's your favorite childhood memory? She was like, all right, this is your number one warning, no drama. And to be honest, I didn't even think that was towards me because I didn't think asking about your favorite childhood memories was drama. And I think I asked one other question, which was, is there something that you've learned about yourself that you would like to share with us? Which I just thought was a really interesting question I'd like to ask Rosie because I'm genuinely curious. So anyway, she said that I was on timeout. So I am on a 24-hour silent timeout. I'm not allowed to comment, but I did take notes, Rosie. So don't worry. Don't worry, girl. I did get the time that you said the glasses were so gay. And then you paused yourself and you said, in a good way. And then you said, shut the fuck up, shut the fuck up, shut the fuck up. No way, they're so gay. No, Rosie, you shut the fuck up. That's the disrespectfulness. The disrespectful. Oh, and a little spoiler, she also does make a little side-handed comment about ALR later in the video. I totally caught that, Rosie. You said you didn't want no drama. You lie. You are a lie. Okay. She gets more drink powders. She's doing an Amazon haul today. She's opening the Amazon haul that everybody, her subscribers from her wish list. She said that she has basically bought herself some things off the wish list so that she didn't get duplicates so other people wouldn't buy it for her. She bought herself a lot of the Amazon haul. Turns out she only got like 3 or 4 boxes from subscribers. She gets a shot glass actually to do trial taste tests and to measure her tonics. She said something about hopefully, I can like get down a little bit on my dosage so, I can stretch it longer. Right, girl, right? You definitely want to stretch out longer because you totally didn't take all of your onyx tonight and then mentioned after you were obliterated, girl. You got that one little tonic that you took in the beginning, just like, or well, it was like halfway through. It messed you up, dude. I could see how completely gone you were by the end of the live because all you could do was lip sync and stare at the comments. Anyway, she says she doesn't collect things she doesn't use. I want you guys to keep that in mind because later on in the stream, she does mention that she's going to have to show her mom some of the new kitchen items she's gotten. And she says verbatim, her mom's going to ask her, where are we going to put these? And then she says, well, we have a lot of things that we don't use. We don't know where to put. So she does say that she doesn't collect things she doesn't use, which I believe is another lie. So, and this is about the time when I popped in with my questions. She said, drama doesn't exist today. You know what? Yeah. Another thing I got for myself because I'm aging. I want to do my face, but better. So basically she got herself some lightweight makeup. You know how they do like those BB creams instead of like a full foundation. She was saying that, she got this because she wants to do her face, but better. So basically she just wants to add a little bit of that nice soft glam moment, which I totally live for. That's all I do every day is like mascara, a little bit of eyeliner, maybe some blush from feeling it, and then I'm done. I just thought it was funny because halfway through she goes, because of global warming, I need less makeup. Girl, like what? Because of global warming, I need less makeup. I wish that I had that mentality that I could literally just think that, oh my God, global warming, I'm going to sweat all my makeup off. Oh my God. Sorry, guys. I'm drinking a Red Bull at the same time. So she's looking at the chat at this point. She's already silenced me. She was like, no drama doesn't exist. You know what? Yeah. And then she's looking at the comments. She says, well, I think you're trolling, but I don't know. I'm going to mute you anyway. So she doesn't know if this person's causing drama. It was a very innocent question. I actually didn't get the question, but she mutes basically anybody for 24 hours that she's not feeling tonight. That's just how our girl is running the show. She does have one of her mods, Demry. She's in the chat. Turns out it's like really late for Demry. I don't understand why Rosie can't take into the consideration of her employees, where they're located, what they're doing. I don't know if she's saying that, but basically just her mods. Why can't you keep in mind your mods? It's like 3 o'clock in the morning over there where Demry's at by the time she ends this live. Demry even says, "Oh my god, girl, it's like 3 in the morning." And she goes on for another good 45 minutes, I think, after Demry says that. But Demry did delete a Teakwood super chat, which I thought was interesting because the chat noticed, and then Demry got dragged in the comments. So Rosie did have to say, all right, y'all, no dragging Demry. It was a mistake. Everybody makes mistakes, but I'm not allowed to ask about your childhood memories. I'm not allowed to make those mistakes. You also, Rosie, by the way, you did not ever say exactly what you didn't want to see in your chat. You said, I'm giving you one warning, but you didn't name who you were giving the warning to. There's a lot of people in your chat who were talking. There was roughly 270 people in live when I came in. So of course I didn't think it was me because I was asking an innocent question. But Demry's allowed to make mistakes by deleting a super chat. So let's keep that in mind. Levi comes in. He's not in a good mood. We can assume it's because Rosie's knee situation. She's been complaining about it basically the whole beginning of this live, saying that she's been having Levi help her out a lot because of her knee. She's moaning, groaning, using her cane, doing the most. So Levi comes in and he's not in a good mood. Rosie offers pizza, specifically Papa John's, because apparently this is Levi's favorite and he doesn't get it often. She says it's an apology for having him help her so much today. Levi said, no, thank you. I don't really feel like it. She stews over this, of course, because Rosie, she's offering basically something to say hey, I'm so sorry. I feel so bad for making you do all this stuff. And I know you're in a really bad mood now and it's because of me. Please take this gift. And he declines it, which pisses her off. You can tell, because then she goes on into saying how she's going to get him something even though he said no, which is a guilty gift giving. If anybody understands how, the manipulation works. I don't even want to say that Rosie's a manipulator, okay? This is just from what I know of manipulators. They buy gifts to their victims. A lot of the time, it is a guilt gift. It is something that makes them feel better for being really awful to this person. So, I'm not saying that's what Rosie's doing here. I'm just saying that's the taste it's leaving in my mouth. She got herself a knee pillow for sleeping. Says that it's going to help her position her hips and, her knees and stuff. So remember earlier when I said she wants no drama, but then she mentions ALR, our good old Amber. The only thing skinny about me is my ankles, is what she says. They're going to be chicken legs when this weight goes bye. So obviously Rosie, she's still got an idea of losing the weight and getting it all off, becoming more mobile. She actually talks about going to Disneyland and not wanting to go to Disneyland until she is more mobile. So it's obviously in her brain. I just don't think that it's something that she's necessarily working really hard towards. I don't think that she just says it. You know what I'm saying? She's just saying it. She's not necessarily doing it. So after she says this, she gives an Amber reference after she calls for no drama in the chat. She says, my ankles are so dainty and dangling. And then she also recognizes that she did say she did not want no drama, and that she also is saying, oh my god, my ankles are dangling. So I just have to say that this is probably the funniest but the most tasteless part of her live, because how are you going to sit there saying, I don't want no drama, I don't like Amberlynn, please stop comparing me to Amberlynn, I'm nothing like Amberlynn, and then you're going to sit here and say no drama. Oh, speaking of, she also says she is nervous, you guys. She is nervous to try some of the new drink mixes that she got. She is nervous. So I think that QLR is possibly a little more ALR coded than she thinks, or maybe she knows and she's just playing into that. She knows drama is what get clicks and views, so she did give us a lot of that in this live today. She did get a goat trophy. A goat trophy in the chat. This is 1,000 jewels, so this is a pretty big gift. 1,000 jewels is about $20, I think, give or take 15. And she just never mentions that. She never mentions the jewels at all. I think at one point, 10 or 15 minutes down the road, she goes, oh, and thanks everybody for giving me jewels, who's giving me jewels in the chat. But yeah, she never specifically thanks any of these people. I did notice one of them was somebody who was participating a lot during the live, so I think it would have been nice for her to at least say thank you for the goat so and so. I've noticed you've been in the chat. She does say that to one member at the very end of the chat. Do face something, I don't know, but she says Thank you for somebody who gets her a food processor because it wasn't even on her wish list. She says, who am I going to give a dissertation of thanks? I personally think she means dissertation, which is a long, in-depth academic research project completed to earn a college or university degree. So, our girl, who's so literal and literatured up, I don't even know. I'm not also literatured or whatever that our girl is using her big girl words and she's trying to confuse us all, but don't worry, I know what that word is. She gets a pain relief balm. She cries and says the pain is getting worse and she's trying to cope. So she's crying a lot during the stream. Actually, as soon as she gets that rude food processor, she starts to like bawl. She claims she smokes pre-rolls about 12 times a year, but within 2 to 3 month time frame. I'm not quite sure on the time frame, but I did hear that she usually buys 3 pre-rolls at a time. I think it's interesting she's going to be answering questions about cannabis use and consumption in her chat, but she's not going to answer the questions like, hey, did you go to college and stuff like that. I also am confirming that Rosie is watching the ankle because when she is getting this food processor out of these boxes, she says she was, quote, told, unquote, to flip over the big boxes to get out the large items. And I watched the Ankle's review and he said, girl, why don't you just flip it over? It'd be so much easier. Because she likes the attention of the struggle. I don't know if you guys watch Eugenia. I know Jordy did Eugenia for a long time. She's also one of those creators who makes content for specific types of groups. And we have to remember that Rosie also came from these specific types of groups, and struggling with large items or struggling through your day to day is a part of those groups. They like to see that. It is a kink. I'm not kink shaming or anything, but I'm just saying it's looking weird. Anyway, she bought the Vera Wang Princess Body Spray. I just wrote this down because I think it's so hilarious because when I was literally like 13, I got a 17 magazine and this body spray was one of the little like, you know how you get like sample body sprays in your magazines and stuff and you get to smell? The Vera Wang was one of those body sprays in like a 17 teen magazine. So keep that in mind. It is very much a teen perfume, in my opinion. It doesn't have to be in your opinion. It was about $11. She says she wants to buy the perfume because it smells so good. She sprays it over and over and over, like 3 or 4 times. The perfume itself is roughly 30 to 35 bucks. She then has more body mist. She says the Bodycology is basically a dupe of Bed Bath and Body Works. She says she likes those the most, but she's trying to save money. I don't know why she's trying to save money or what she's saying money for, but that is kind of what she's alluding to in this buying body mists thing. She also says she likes to layer body mist, so she's spraying all the body mist in the kitchen. She's just sitting there literally after she sprayed like a million different body sprays. She goes, well, I think I'm gonna stop spraying this because you don't like a Levi. At least she thinks about him the few times she does something. I think it was because she had sprayed so many body sprays, it was starting to bother her. And then she was like, well, if it's bothering me, then maybe Levi. Anyway, she says she's overwhelmed. Didn't know she was getting things you need was over consuming, but go off queen. So she literally is recognizing there that people are saying like, hey, overconsumption's a thing. It literally contributes to global warming that you were talking about earlier. Oh my God, my makeup is going to slough off because of global warming. So anyway, she says, immediately after that, she says the drink mixes are a need. They're not, they're a want. They're not a need. So after this, I thought it was interesting. She pulls out the laundry detergent and she says this is her favorite scent, which is in fact the Midnight Gain detergent, which is what Amberlynn uses. I know we've seen that in a lot of her vlogs in the past. She says that smell of the Midnight Gain and then the Vera Wang Princess on top. Oh my God. She's saying that's going to be like the best spraying ever. She did get a Febreze room spray. She got a double pack. She says her favorite. The only reason why I wrote all this down is because she literally says, I didn't know getting things you need was over consuming, but go off queen. So I'm going off. I don't think you needed a triple pack or double pack of your favorite Febreze room sprays because you literally said you deserve to have your favorite if you can access it. So obviously she doesn't have any concerns over money. According to her own logic, she says you need to have the money to spend to consume these things. So I'm assuming that she has the money to buy these things because she says you deserve to have your favorite if you can access it, which obviously she can access it. Even though she's complaining about money over and over, I don't believe that's actually a complaint that is valid. Just another side note, she says you need both a bidet and toilet paper. Our clean queen. So her knee injury is she's using it to have Levi help her even more. She mentions the light bulb needs replaced in the kitchen, the one right above her head, and she smacks it with the cane. It does not turn back on, just so she goes, dang it, and then she's done with it. She doesn't ask Levi to change it, which was surprising to me. And then I kind of like broke away because it was getting so freaking boring, and by this time it was like 3 hours into the live, and she just just randomly says moment of silence for the Jenna Marbles we grew up with. And I was like, what? And then she says that Vanilla Mace is basically the new Jenna Marbles. I literally cannot disagree with this more. I don't know what y'all have to say about that, but that's just my little bit of tea. I cannot disagree with that more. She cries over the gifts, and then she says, what is my life? This is so cool. So Rosie's aware of what she's doing, how she's using her chat, how she's manipulating the chat to talk people into getting her things. She's very, very aware. She says, what is my life? Because she's opened a bunch of gifts from a bunch of people. She's gotten a bunch of Amazon hauls. She literally mentions how she used to watch things like this when she was a kid and think like, oh my God, I want this to be me. So she's in her manifesting moment. You know what I mean, girls? And then for a second, she keeps getting super chats that are getting deleted. The chats are asking about it, but Rosie completely ignores the chat asking about deleted super chats. I don't know what's going on with that because the super chats weren't even inappropriate. I do have one that got Rosie pretty ruffled, which I'm going to mention because it got deleted pretty quickly, but Rosie did address it. It obviously touched a nerve. So she says we're not getting political because everything's on fire. I'm not sure if she means the wildfires, the global warming, or just Trump in general, but she does mention Trump for a brief second earlier. So according to Rosie, she can talk about politics, but chat cannot. She's allowed to add any of her 2 cents, but chat cannot. So most of the cooking gifts, or most of the gifts are cooking related gifts. So I think that's an interesting thing to notice. She did get one like pain relief balm, and then she got just a ton of cooking related gifts after. She's dramatic about it. She says, "Can I take a second?" And then she pauses for literally like 3 minutes. I'm not even joking. She says, "Can I take a second?" And then she pauses. She says, "I was once a teenager who once watched, excuse me, sorry, it's my Red Bull, who once watched this kind of shit and dreamed of this reality, and I'm living it right now, and that's so cool." She goes, I can just splurge myself, and on top of that, you guys can craftily pick things out. So she is very, very obsessed with this idea of being, like, just giving gifts, being able to buy herself extra stuff. She literally says earlier, like, overconsumption, go off lean, but then she sits there and says, basically, like, yeah, I want to overconsume. She got a food processor, hand cream, silicone opening mats, a silicone mat that holds her cutting board down. Also, I did notice that she literally uses her stove. Like, I didn't notice that before. When she's sitting in her kitchen, she's using her stove for everything, like cutting, chopping, everything, because her counters are so nasty. She got new pots and pans, she got new mixers, she got a bunch of all that stuff. And then somebody in the chat says, if you cry, you got to take a THC shot. And this is when Rosie goes, I'm all out of shots, girl, which is basically being like, hey, Teakwood, which she does do later in the live. Teakwood does send her a whole bunch of shit, so go off weed, like Rosie would say. She says 15 milligrams is a starter dose for her, so she thinks she doesn't have enough, but she might drink the last tonic and shot. So she did drink a tonic, which I'm pretty sure is a 15 milligrams. Sister, I don't think 15 milligrams is a starter dose for you. You were messed up. You were completely toasted by the end of that live. I think 15 milligrams is a great dose for you in general. It seems to do exactly what you want it to and isn't overdoing it. But Rosie seems to be our queen of overconsuming. So she said someone needs to be called emotional taint because somebody is called giggle taint. She is really stretching this. She really, really thinks this is hilarious. I don't. I really think it's kind of gross. It's a little juvenile. She's 35, 36, but she acts 16. She says she hates the drink mix she's tasting because it tastes like chemical. She says very chemical forward, but then she keeps going back and eventually says she liked it. Laughs over someone says they're crying over Dolly Parton's death today, which I thought was really, really sad because Dolly Parton was one of the only billionaires who didn't want to be a billionaire. She gave thousands of books to underprivileged children. There's just so much I could go on about Dolly. Rest in peace, Dolly. We love you. So yeah, F you, Rosie, for sitting there laughing at somebody over that. She says she isn't drinking water because of knee stuff. So basically she's saying she can't drink water because her knee. This is giving Amber Lynn. I'm sorry, I can't help but make the comparisons because Amber Lynn's dangling ankle, she literally can do anything. So now we've got Rosie's knee. She actually washes her hands before she applies the pain cream. So she decides she's going to use this pain cream, but she won't be doing that for, cooking food. She muted the live to presumably scream at Levi. She seems stressed. I think he walked in and started talking to her because she does this little handshake thing, where she has her fist up and she's like shaking it. And then it just goes straight to her forehead. So I'm presuming it's about the pool, but then afterwards, I don't think so, because she mentioned something about him having dental pain. I also did just a little chat in here saying, oh my god, her arm is huge, because it literally like covers the whole length of her body, and we know her body's huge. So she stays with her hand on her head for a few minutes, then begins to swing the cane around and point places in front of her. At this point, I realized that she was expressing to Levi that he needed to clean up the mess that she made with all of the boxes and the packaging. And so she's telling him what packaging she wants him to clean up and where to put it. I don't know why this stresses her out so much. She literally could have just gotten up and at least organized everything into one box. She could have at least put all the wrapping into one box. She literally just makes a huge mess. So she asked for an admin cleanup, or what she says was an admin cleanup. I don't think she knows what that means. She doesn't know what anything means. And then she goes and she asks him if he's hungry. Again, I want to just come back to those gifts of sorry. The guilt gifts from when a person is trying to manipulate a situation, because she just goes in there, acts really stressful, waves her cane around, has Levi pick up all the stuff, and then says, admin cleanup, are you hungry? So yeah, she's making Levi do these things. Obviously Levi is also in pain, because that's what she mentions later, is that he's in a lot of pain. She says, are you hungry again? He says, my mouth hurts, and she mutes. So basically she sits there and talks to him a little bit after she's already made him clean up, after she's complained about her knee pain. Then she says, dental pain sucks, I'm sorry, as soon as she clicks the live off. That is the most insensitive fucking thing I have ever heard. I'm sorry, Rosie, but literally sitting there making your brother clean up your fucking mess, asking if he's hungry, and then him explaining to what I'm sure is like a long explanation of what's happening to him and how he's feeling, you go, dental pain sucks, I'm sorry. She didn't order him anything, even though earlier she had mentioned that she was going to order him some food because Papa John's his favorite. And then she goes to say, if I'm not engaging, ask something else. It's that simple. Rosie's getting a little bit of an attitude by the end of this live. She complains about P.O. Box issues because her legal name isn't Quirky Love Rosa. So she's had issues with the Postal Service. She then complains about Postal Service and then decides it's time to start talking about service industry workers. So waiters, waitresses, bartenders, bud tenders, all of the amazing people who work for minimum wage or barely making it past. She says all of this with a kind of like air of superiority about it. I don't think Quirky has worked a service industry job ever, but please correct me if I'm wrong. She says that tipping is mandatory. It's something you can't skimp out of. If she says you're trying to stick it to the man, you're not sticking it to the man. You're just sticking it to the workers who are trying to survive off of pennies, basically is what she's saying, which I do agree. But then somebody in the chat says, I don't think you're saying the right thing. You're saying, like it's up to us, but really it should be up to the restaurants to pay their workers a livable wage. And she goes, exactly. No, girl, that is not what you were saying. So please recorrect yourself. She also says chiropractors are a Joseph Smith coded thing. I don't even know what that means. I kind of wanted to Google it, but also at the same time, I really don't care. So if somebody thinks that's hilarious, or if it's kind of like a chuckle, let me know, because I don't know what Joseph Smith coded chiropractics means. She gets some more stuff and says her mom is going to be stoked. And then she says she's going to be like, where do we put it? Because, quote, we have a lot of stuff we don't use, end quote. I just want to flash back earlier to what I was saying when she said, like, we don't get things we don't use. She literally says later in the live, we have a lot of stuff we don't use. So she eats a goodie powder and she chokes on it. This was absolutely hilarious. I'm so sorry. I'm not laughing because she chokes on it. I'm laughing because she I'm laughing because she chokes on it, and then she reaches for chips. Dude, she reaches for chips. So she goes over and she puts this goodie powder in her mouth. She goes basically. And then she instantly reaches for chips and eats a couple of chips. And then she goes, yeah, I'm really scared to do acid. I don't know where that came up, but she goes into saying how maybe she'd do it if she was in her bed because her bed's her safe space, and then maybe she would do acid there. She says she wants to microdose shrooms if it's ever legalized, and then somebody mentions that it's legalized in Oregon, so she says she needs to take an Oregon trip. Girly, I just don't know where your priorities are, but going all the way down to Oregon to microdose on shrooms sounds like it should be the bottom of your list, in my personal opinion. She puts the cream on. a lot of this cream. I don't know if you guys have ever used a pain management cream before, like Icy Hot, but you're only supposed to use a little tiny bit in localized areas because it is using menthol or peppermint, which is a basically an essential oil that can burn your skin. I don't think Rosie knows this because she puts it all over her arms, all over her hands, and then she gloves up because somebody says maybe you shouldn't be unwrapping all of the food processing stuff and, stuff like that when you have pain cream on, which is kind of smart. But the fact that she put on so much of this pain cream and then she puts gloves on top of it, it basically just amplified the effect of her pain cream. She mentions how she is temperature sensitive later on in the life. No shit, girl, you gave yourself a fucking chemical burn with the menthol. You dumbass. I'm so sorry, but I literally cannot. You didn't even read the directions. You didn't read the usage. You did nothing. You just opened the bottle and you put it on. But you think you're going to go to Oregon and microdose on shrooms. Do you even know how to microdose? You don't even know how to microdose your pain cream. Shut up. Okay, so she does all this stuff. Then eventually she takes off the gloves and she noticed that her skin is pilling up and she shows us. She says, I think it's the cream. I mean, it could be a possibility of the creams like softening your hands, but it's literally because you're not washing or exfoliating your skin. That is just dead skin coming off that has been on there. It's because you don't wash your hands. Rosie does everything on her stove. I mentioned this. It's because there's all her counters cluttered. She also tries to find her headphones later. She realizes that she literally can't figure it out because everything's cluttered. Like, Rosie, just take 2 seconds and maybe just organize some shit. Like, when you're on live and you're just staring at the chat or you're so blitzed out of your mind that all you can do is lip sync, turn your chair around, just scoot it around, swivel, look at your counter, gather a couple of things into a group that could go into one certain spot. And I just want you to do this just so that you can make it easier for yourself. Put things in groups that go in certain areas. And as soon as you get up to go to that area, because we know you're not going to do it on your own out of the way. So if you have a bunch of things that need to go into the bathroom and then just later on in stream you say you have to go to the bathroom, take that pile of stuff with you into the bathroom and then your counters would not be as cluttered. Life hack. So she probably gave herself a mild chemical burn with cream. She says her hands are super temp sensitive. I just mentioned this. She talks to Teakwood about getting new brands of tonics. So she says she can practice with her new measuring glasses if she gets more. Basically, started this live out to grift to Teakwood. Then Teakwood says she's sending her a smorgasbord of THC. I put a little note in here that's confusing me. Anyway, so Rosie is super excited about this, obviously. She says she'll be set for months. She does not cry during this moment, but she did quote unquote cry during the food processing moment. So let's just keep that in mind. She talks about how vaping THC is wild. She says, I think it's just the weirdest thing that you can do. It's just really weird because, my lungs are bad and I want everything for my lungs to be the best, blah, blah, blah. She then says that she is not judging. Sorry, I don't know if you can hear the sirens. I'm going to stop. She then says she's going to do upper body workouts, but she's scared to do core workouts without supervision because she could be injured. I wonder, Rosie, if you've ever had a shoulder injury ever in your life. I wonder if you've ever had tennis elbow. She literally complains about her fibromyalgia hands so much that I'm surprised that she can even grip a 5-pound weight. So we'll see if that ever happens. She said she did it on lives before and then she got self-conscious. So I think she just doesn't like criticism. She doesn't like people telling her that she's doing something wrong. I think because Rosie thinks she's doing everything right immediately. That is one thing that I learned as a child. I think that most of us learned as a child that making mistakes is part of growing up and it's part of learning. And we have to accept that we made a mistake to be better. So Rosie, I think you would move forward a lot faster, a lot quicker, just because you... pause. Sorry. My phone is going off. I think, Rosie, if that thought's gone. It's gone. So she hobbled around to find her headphones. She called herself Rosalind. I thought this was interesting. I know her name is Rosie and it's probably Rosalind, but she literally said Rosie Lynn, which she had a lot of foreshadowing to Amberlynn here. Amberlynn's off of Rural World right now. She's completely disappeared on us. The only person we have in our sights is Foodie, Quirky, and then sometimes I see Topia Chew. I'm not super into Topia Chew. She gives me a really, really dirty garbage feeling at the bottom of my stomach. She just makes me feel really, really sick. I don't think that Topia Chew has any sort of not necessarily right, but I don't think she needs to be on the internet. I think that she has a lot more going on than the other girls. Like, I think Rosie and ALR are somebody who can make those decisions kind of on their own. From what I've seen up to Piachu, I think she's mentally disabled, and I don't like talking about people who are disabled. So, in the mental capacity, I don't mind talking about you if you're sitting in a chair, you got fibromyalgia. So anyway, sorry, all of that's probably going to be controversial. Girl world is controversial. So she's staring at it. Well, she says that she finds her headphones, comes back into the kitchen, says, "Oh my god, look guys," shows us the headphones, takes her iPad, headphones, and cane, and then says she needs to use the bathroom. So while she's using the bathroom, she doesn't mute, she doesn't click off the live, she doesn't do anything to entertain us, she literally just leaves. So we're staring at a chair in the kitchen for a couple minutes. I think it was like 3.5, 4 minutes long. I did notice that there's a fan set up behind the camera that is pointing basically directly at that chair that's blowing at all times. But I swear, if I walked into my house and I seen a rolling chair in my kitchen, I'd be like, all right, who the fuck? So Rosie comes back to lip sync to us. She said, "I'm low key, I'm vibes, I'm tired." So this is where her live starts winding down. You can tell this is where the THC is hitting her. She says her playlists are on her link tree because she's going to be listening to music. She's like, I know I said I don't want to listen to music on live sometimes, blah, blah, blah. I don't think she says that necessarily, but she says, like, I'm not going to sing because my throat's kind of bleh right now. And then she continues to sing. I wonder if she knows that you could literally start a jam for the live because she uses Spotify, which a lot of people use Spotify. I know it's controversial right now. We should be switching. I use SoundCloud, but I can't lie. I also use Spotify a lot. But in Spotify, you can create a jam, which basically just use a QR code. She could literally post that QR code up in her chat and be like, all right, guys, if you want to listen to what I'm listening to, here's where it is. And it literally plays it in real time. Plays exactly which song you're playing, and it just connects everybody to the jam at once. You can put some like settings on it to where people cannot change the songs that are going through the jam, or the coolest thing is that you can have your watchers also add songs to the jam. The only thing that happens there is some people don't really know how to work with that, and sometimes they'll accidentally change the song that is currently playing, so that could be a little bit annoying. I would probably just need to, you can listen but not change, but that would be something that would be impressive and a little bit more fun for her viewers. But I don't think our girls are very interested in making things interesting for the viewers. I think that when it comes to their streams, it's very basic bitch, which is exactly what I'm doing with my reaction here. This is all you're going to get. I'm not really going to edit this very much. You're going to have all of the bloopers in here. I might throw up a photo of one of the girls, whoever I'm covering at a time, but I work a lot. I work like 50-hour weeks, and I do this on my free time. So, she said she didn't want to talk about politics, and then she talks about Trump and the FEA very briefly. So, she says something about the food not being safe, and then she says she's like hungry. And then Rosie sees something on her phone. She was like, oh my god, oh my god. I actually got a screenshot of this moment. It's very adorable. She looks like one of those little frog dudes that, you know, you like work together and they have like huge. Yeah, she just is adorable. And she says, oh my god, I'll tell you once I get an answer. And then she turns around, does a little something on the counter, turns back around, says, oh my god, hi Teakwood, check your DMs. So this is the moment Teakwood is going to be getting probably a DM about all of the new THC products she needs to try and needs to buy for her. She says she needs to read and edit, says she has stuff in the background that's taking up all her time. I really wish Rosie and a lot of the girls could understand what it's like to actually have a busy schedule, because when they say that they have things taking up all their time, I'm literally stuck on a live for 4 hours where I'm watching Rosie and taking notes while I am like literally working a job, trying to meal prep, getting things ready for dinner, the family, the home, and on top of it all trying to react to this extremely long, extremely boring live that Rosie is complaining that she has absolutely no time to read or edit or anything else. Lee pops into the live. Actually, I'm not quite sure if it's Lee or somebody else, but basically she says that she's cried a couple times already. She says everything's vibes, everything's good vibes, talks about all the gifts, says that she'll have to show them later, so she's worn out from the live. She says she's going to get off the live soon. So I popped off because I thought she actually meant that, and I had just gotten off work, and I was like, all right, I got to drive home. 30-minute drive home. Girl was still on live by the time I got home, and she was still on live for like an hour after. We're at like 38 minutes already on this, but whatever. She says she's so nice to customer service workers, which I'm sure you are. She came back an hour later, or I came back an hour later. She said she's still on. So the first thing I heard was, girl, I'm just tired and stoned. So she was eating in between when I like popped off the live and came back into the live. She made a sandwich and she heated up some of that lasagna soup that she made with Levi when he came over. It's like crazy to me that she like freezes stuff in her freezer and then like has it like weeks later. I literally, the only things I freeze in my freezer are like things that I'll use in a soup, not like a whole soup. Like she was like, oh my god, the noodles are like halfway frozen. Yeah, because it's been in the deep freezer for like 3 weeks, over a month. I use like, my stocks or my bone broth or stuff like that. I'll put in the freezer, but nothing that I'm actually gonna like microwave and eat. I feel like, I don't know, I just have to fully cook it after it comes out of the freezer. She said she wouldn't sing, but she is singing Panic at the Disco. She got sauce on her iPad. She loves taking care of her expensive things. Rosie says she's nervous to try a new drink packet flavor. So I mentioned this earlier, so she's nervous to try these new flavors. It's lavender and Jamaica. She goes like off on the Jamaica thing. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right or wrong, but that was why she was going off. Lavender drinks, in my opinion, I absolutely love them. If you guys have not tried like a white coffee lavender huckleberry latte, I highly encourage you to do that. She's already so like gone. She's so stoned. All she's doing is heavy breathing and eating while occasionally talking about other food. She mentioned she needs the willies because she's already taken that, so she mentions taking more. Says she likes florals on her body, but not in her drinks. Talking about like lavender drink. Says she'll save them for the next time she sees Lee. So she's talking about sharing the bizarre flavors of drink mixes she just purchased. She says it's for content. She does an epic cheese pull on her grilled cheese sandwich. I have to say, she did like one of the longest cheese pulls on this thing, and that thing looked really good. She literally made it with like mozzarella shredded cheese, which for some reason I haven't seen that done at all in my life. I was like, oh. But yeah, cheese pull, 10 out of 10. She doesn't want to go to Disney World until certain things happen. This was elusive, but then she just says it's because she wants to be able to go on roller coasters as a child. I do want to mention earlier that she told me I was starting drama by asking about one of her favorite memories as a child, but she did end up mentioning this later in the stream, which she said was one time she went to a little fair. It had one of those kiddie roller coasters on it. She loved that memory. She said it's one of few that she has, but that was indeed her favorite memory, was trying her first roller coaster as a child. She said it would bum her out not to be able to go on a roller coaster now because that's kind of like the memories that she has with those. So she doesn't want to go to Disney until she can get on the roller coaster because she doesn't want to just go there to eat, is what she says. Then she talks about going to Six Flags, says she doesn't need a virtual reality set to ride a roller coaster. She will do it for her. So she's talking about people pocket watching her because she's buying things that's on her Amazon wish list, also complaining about money. She rants for a little while. I said it's weird because she's been buying off her Amazon wish list and people complain about that in the comments. I also have not seen any complaints in the comments about her buying things off her wish list, but I wasn't really paying like a lot of attention to the comments. But this is the super chat that the mods removed. It said, I think people think it's weird you made a wish list for your brother who you don't want anyone to talk about. People think it's weird you don't buy things for him yourself with your own money. She calls them weird for thinking about it too much. And she says, no one is holding a pew-pew to your head saying you have to buy things for me or him. It's funny because she says for me, but the whole conversation was based around Levi at first. The question was even like pointed towards Levi. It was not pointed towards Rhodey. Wasn't pointed. All right, I'm done. It wasn't pointed towards her at all. So I thought that was just interesting because she really doesn't have any reason to be saying for me at this point. She just, that's all she thinks about is herself. Then she says how people have been to her house, that it's been a problem, so she won't elaborate. She talks about how flexible Levi is, and that's why she wants to share this with him, this being the free gifts and the money. She said she wants him to reap some of the benefits if he's going to deal with the bullshit. I don't know how we got into such a negative connotation in our speech when it was just a question about like, why don't you buy him things? Because Rosie, you literally said earlier that you wanted to buy him a pizza. So instead of trying to defend yourself, how about you actually do the things that you yourself say you're going to do for him? Because you never ended up buying him that pizza at all. Says he's a part of the channel as much as he wants to be. And then she lip syncs and all we hear are her mouth noises. So just... And then says, I'd be surprised if you could guess what that song is without any music, just lip sync. People mention getting Levi a mini fridge, and she says he doesn't want a mini fridge. I think it's really interesting that you are talking for your brother every single time somebody talks about him, Levi, because you literally don't even go to ask him. Then she elaborates by saying he doesn't have the room. She talks for Levi a lot. I personally, as a sibling, understand it when a sibling like knows you, but I even had to have a conversation with my own siblings the other day about like just asking. I know you think that it's going to be something that's an easy yes or an easy no, but you never know. So I had to express this to like my own siblings, like, hey, if you don't ask, you don't know. So it's literally just that. You don't ask, you don't know. She talks about getting frustrated over learning new things, because she doesn't want to set up the air fryer on live. So she says, I'm just gonna get really frustrated and I don't want to deal with that right now. I think you're just too stoned, Rosie. I think you're just too stoned. And I think when you get stoned, you get frustrated, which is so weird because people get stoned to calm down. So I can imagine she gets very frustrated over anything new, which just like puts me back into the idea of Lee and like what they were doing when he was coming over. And that's probably why she didn't want to go to the beach, because she was already like so angry with just the change of environment while he was here, because it's a completely new aspect of her life having Lee in her life every single day. So it's out of the mundane of what she usually probably does, which is get up, eat, stream, and go back to bed. She had somebody who had to have mental stimulation, physical stimulation. Lee is a skinny guy. I'm sure he's probably very active. He looks like he eats just fine, but then again, I don't know anything about him. He's like a new character to me. Rosie's a new character to me. I'm an ALR girly all the way. I don't really like Foodie. Not saying I don't like her. Foodie's hilarious, and she's just not a girl I'm trying to cover. But Rosie, you got my attention because you silenced me on your live for asking you about your favorite memory as a child. So I was like, well, if I am already on her nerves, I might as well. And then somebody in the chat says, everyone needs a brother like Levi who gives and never complains. She reads out this comment, but ironically, I don't think that she understands what they're trying to say in this comment, because it's a very backhanded comment. Because somebody just saying that everybody needs a brother who just gives and gives and gives. Have you guys read The Giving Tree? Have you read that at all? If you haven't, I suggest it. Basically, the tree gives and gives and gives until there is nothing left and they're still asking for more. I believe this is why Rosie has that mentality of asking and asking and asking and never expecting a no. I'm not saying Levi's responsible for that. I'm saying her parents are responsible for that. She did say that she got Levi an action figure off of his wish list because she says he likes those things. And then this is where her mod Demery says, damn, it's 3 a.m., bro. It really puts it into perspective how poorly Rosie has done with her choices of mods. Not saying that her mods are bad, but the whole evening, Demery was accidentally removing super chats that shouldn't have been removed. Mentions that it's 3 o'clock in the morning, so it's very, very late for them. And I think you should just have mods who are in your time zone, who will be able to help you out. Or if they're not in your time zone, at least have the same kind of schedule that your lives do. Also, somebody who's not going to do quote-unquote little mistakes here and there. We're all human. No, I know she's human, but she also has a job to do, or they have a job to do. Removing a super chat is, I think, egregious to the point because like someone's paying for that. They paid to say that. Even if you don't like what's being said in a super chat, I believe you have the responsibility of keeping it up because you are going to be keeping the money from that super chat regardless. So basically she says she's going to call Levi really quick and she mutes herself and stares at herself in the viewfinder for a long time. Levi does not answer the whole time. Lately I've been noticing Levi is not either keeping his phone around or answering the phone calls. I don't know if she was calling Levi or if she was calling Lee. I just know that she was calling somebody, and then it goes to voicemail and she says he's disconnected from his phone, it seems. Says her brother has insurance. She doesn't. He's going to be taking care of his tooth. Said she's listening to Is It Really You by Sleep Token, but it's a Loathe cover. I don't know who that is, but I just think it's interesting the kind of music that Rosie's been playing. It's like Panic at the Disco, Sleep Token, so a couple of interesting covers. She's like trying to be that girl, but I don't know. She says that she would just like to nip that stuff in the butt about the insurance. It is nip it in the bud because if you snip the bud of a flower, it's not going to bloom. We're not nipping anything in the butt, Rosie. I think that would cause a much more dramatic reaction than nipping something in the bud. We're almost done, you guys. I swear to God. Lee texts her at the end of the live. She draws her lips a straight line across as she reads his text. It's kind of like a smirk. And then she says, long distance relationships are hard, but they're not possible. I think what she meant here, she's just so completely toasted. I think she meant that long distance relationships are hard, but they are not impossible. And then she goes to say, and they're not forever if they're meant to be real, which she's not really elaborating, and it's kind of like mixing up by the end of the live. She's really tired. She's really confused. But the way it all came out was long distance relationships are hard, but they're not possible, and they're not forever if they're meant to be real, So basically what I understood from that is that she said they're hard, they're not impossible. Also, they're not going to stay long distance relationships forever if they're meant to be. But what it came out to sound like was long distance relationships aren't possible and they're not forever. So I think a lot of the live kind of took that because she was so toasted by the end of this thing that she didn't really understand what she's saying. She said she was going to leave and 2 songs ago. but she keeps listening to more songs. I think she was trying to get through a playlist by that, but it's the end of the live. She says the wrong vibe, and then she logs off. I think I missed like a tiny little piece of the end there, but nothing crazy was happening. She was super toasted. The only thing interesting that was going on was her mixing up her words with the gosh, now I'm over it at the end. I think the only thing that she was really focused on was like Lee's text message. She did end up saying a couple of things about that. I wanted to get down more notes, but I didn't because she didn't look like super happy at the end of the live when she mentioned texting Lee, but she didn't also say much about Lee after she texted him. She just kind of smirked and then she like smiled and like, held her hands up her chest and acted all sweet. But for the most part, that was the majority of the live was Rosie basically just sitting there and opening gifts, complaining every once in a while, and making fun of Amber Lynn. I think that is probably the biggest thing to take away from this because Rosie is so adamant about not being cared to Amber Lynn. She's so adamant about not causing drama in her chats to the point that she's going to mute people, and then she blatantly breaks her own rules. So I just want to add my little 2 cents here. You'll probably see me around a little bit. I might need some help with figuring out some theme songs for my new channel. I want to know if anybody has any creators that they're really into right now. Maybe anybody you've worked with who's done a really good intro for you. I'm just trying to get into the YouTube side of things. I was on TikTok for a while. I had like 22,000 followers on TikTok, but I don't really know the TikTok thing. So I'm going to do YouTube. And yeah, so this is my first video. Thank you for listening to this really, really long breakdown of Rosie's live. I know Busy Bee does a way better job of editing it down in like video form. This is basically just a reaction. It's very Karina coded. I don't even want to say that because Karina's the goat and I'm nothing like Karina, but I like how she does her simple to the point reactions. She brings up the important things in the live. She talks about her opinions on the things that she thought were reactable. So shout out to Karina Kaboom because I drew a lot of inspiration from her here. But yeah, anyway, I am so excited to dive into Girl World with everybody, and I hope you enjoyed my first video. Please leave your comments, concerns, and please do not go to anybody's channel and, react negatively because of what I have said. That is not what I want you to do. I want you to listen to my opinion, agree, disagree, and then tell me about it because I love to hear constructive feedback. I'm really big on learning from my mistakes. And, I like to hear everybody's opinions. It stimulates my brain, makes me happy. So I hope you guys are having a great Wednesday. This is my favorite day of the week. We're in the middle of everything, and it's kind of just putting it in the mood for the rest of the week. So anyway, I guess I'll be logging off now. Bye.